Hello and croissant. Welcome to episode 68 of the Calon Yarns podcast. My name is Lynn and I'm coming to you from Cardiff in Wales in the UK. And this is a podcast all about knitting, crochet, spinning sometimes, and some general chit chat at the end. So I have a little visitor down here, our family dog, Chewie. So apologies if he makes an appearance, but he ate some grass this morning, so he's feeling very sorry for himself. Yes. Anyway, so this week I have some projects that I've made some progress on my active projects. Thank you for all your support last week with that comment. And then I've also got a tutorial. I'm going to put tutorial in inverted commas because I'm not the best at explaining things, but which you'll see. But a tutorial around Afterthought heels and how to do them, what to do them, how to place them, etc. So hopefully, a few of you have asked for some more information about the Afterthought heels, so hopefully that'll give you a general gist on how to do them, I hope. But if you need any more hints and tips, then let me know and I can pass them along the comments, or either on Instagram or here I can let you know. Yes, so I think it'll probably be a couple of parts from me. I'll chat about some of the projects I've done or in progress this week, and then I will hand over to my past self to show you the tutorial, and then I'll pick up after that. I think that's probably the best way of doing things. So in those terms, I have been making steady progress on my Pavuk vest. I'll show you the pattern now, which is the Teti knits, Teti Knit Garden. So this is a vest that I was working on last week, a combination of some leftover Hillersvåg and some Garn, PT2 I think, in this darker red colour. So making good progress on that, and I think last week I was telling you that I had folded over the colourwork chart, so I thought I had nearly completed the colourwork, only to realise that I had literally folded it in half and therefore had a whole other half to go. Excuse me. So I am nearly at the colour work that you work in the round. So if you take a look at the picture here, can you see that there's a little section of this is the pattern, there's a little section of the vest that comes up beyond the main colour work. So the colour work is all the way around, as you would expect, so it's bottom up, but then there's a little section, almost like a triangle section, that is obviously going to be worked in an intarsia type way. So I haven't got to that bit yet. I'm nearly there, but I haven't done that before in a project where you want pattern at the front, but you don't want to be carrying those floats all the way round, and that's all the green I have left. So even if I was going to chicken out, I would imagine, and just carry the yarn all the way across the back, I wouldn't have enough yarn then to do that little section at the front of the tee. So I'm going to have a go at that. I've done intarsia a long time ago, but I think she has a very specific method, so I'll be intrigued as to how that works. You know, I know there are people, like very sensible people, that go ahead and read their pattern all the way through and understand all the techniques that's needed. I'm a little bit more of a, oh, that looks nice, I'll cross that bridge when it comes to it kind of gal. So yes, nearly at that bit, which will be nice to try something a little bit different. So yeah, I will keep you posted on that, of course. So I have been ticking away at that over the last couple of weeks. Socks wise, I have nearly finished the second tube for my Afterthought heel on my normal, I think this is opal sock yarn. These are for my husband, so they're slightly wider and bigger than I would ordinarily knit. So that has been coming up quite quickly. They're just in the round, and I was surprised actually how many of you also enjoy the little small needles, but I know a lot of you have commented on the fact that they do kind of make your hands cramp after a while. Yeah, I get that, I hear you. But yeah, there is something, I find them quite easy to just switch off then when I'm working on these. because so many times I have pulled, have you done this? I've pulled the DPN out that I thought was the one that was in my hand to go round, and I've pulled all the stitches off a section of the sock. So I've done that too many times if I'm not concentrating. So yes, this continental style as well, in terms of making the tube, is quite a nice little tick away section. So nearly finished the second tube of that. Have finished the toe of the other one, so just to put the heels in. And then I have completed one of these socks with the Afterthought heels. And I was talking about, I brought that with me, yes. I was talking about the spiral type heel that I wanted to have a go at. And I knew I'd seen it somewhere in a book. I thought it was in the Liner book, the 52 Weeks of Socks. No, it wasn't in there, but I found it. Oh yes, I did. And I'll show you the book it's in now. I think it's a general method, like a wedge heel or a spiral heel. And a couple of you dropped me a message saying, was I talking about the umbrella heel? Had a read up on that one. No, I wasn't, but that looks interesting. And then somebody else suggested the Flegel heel. What a great name. Wasn't sure about that one. That seemed a little bit complicated in terms of the descriptor of it. So I don't know. I can't use my brain. Are you joking? So I went for finding this spiral heel, and I did find it. And it is in, like I say, it's not, I don't think this person has invented it, but she does use it in some of her sock patterns. So I found it in the Coop Knits. Oh, sorry, my light is not going to help here. But the Coop Knits socks. Yeah, socks, yeah. Is that how you say it? Coop Knits socks, yeah? Volume 1. So this is a great book, and there are lots and lots of really, really different lovely sock patterns, lots of different methods. Here's just a little picture of a selection of the socks that are in there. And in fact, do you remember a couple of weeks ago, in the episode around Wonderwool, I showed you a cuff that was a slightly intriguing pattern, not just the normal 3x2 rib or 2x2 rib. It had a very structured sort of rib to it. See if I can find it in here. Yes, I can. So it's the Shirley heel, Shirley sock. And there, can you see, I won't pull it any more further up because you'll be able to see some of the pattern. But can you see there's a lovely, a different version of a rib that I love. I've done this on a couple of pairs of socks, and it's really, really nice. So yeah, so that was in here. That's the Shirley sock in this book. But yeah, there are lots. There are colourwork ones, there are textured ones, there are lace ones. So if you fancy an all-rounder sock book, then this I can thoroughly recommend. Apologies for the light showing up on it. But yeah, so the spiral heel is in this one. It's actually the sock called the Coraline sock, uses this method. Excuse me. So this is the shape it gives, and I'm not sure whether you can see that very clearly. Hopefully you can see it a bit more clearly in the tutorial. So essentially like the top of a hat. And like I say, I don't feel bad about saying this because I don't think she's invented the heel, because I have read about it in other versions. But you divide the stitches into however many bits of the spiral you want, like you would with the crown of a hat. You go all the way down to 6 stitches, like you would with the crown of a hat. And what that does, it sort of, as I said last week, it cutches your heel a little bit more, so it's a little bit rounder and really, yeah, is a smoother fit around your heel. And I wonder, actually, it sounds like I've been wondering this for days. I haven't, I've just considered it. I wonder whether that shape heel would be better in socks that you use for hiking. Because I'll often use my handmade socks as hiking socks, because I often find the hiking socks that you buy are too thick. I find them really, really thick and really, really hot. And I know these are wool, obviously, but they're natural and they're breathable. And yes, you can get wool hiking socks, but I do often find them to be quite stiff. And maybe I just need bigger boots, I don't know. But handmade socks are the best, I think, for hiking for me. In terms of blisters and comfort, And I wonder actually whether the spiral shape heel would be a better fit for hiking socks, because you really are then eliminating any sort of extra fabric, because it does sort of clutch up to your heel really well. Maybe a thought. Maybe that's how I'll try these out. Anyway, so yes, I've done the heel of that one, and the heel for this one has been opened because obviously it's an Afterthought heel, and I'm starting, I'll do a few rounds of the contrast colour first, and then I'll start to do the decreases. The spiral heel is slightly shorter than a wedge heel, which is what I would usually do, but I think I'd explain that in the tutorial. So I'll hand over to myself right now. So apologies if there is poor light, but this is the end of the day now. So with an Afterthought heel, you essentially create a tube, knit a tube all the way down to however long you want it, and then you add the toe. So I had to add a little bit more orange here, so the toe really starts around here. So you do a toe, and this is a normal wedge toe that you decrease either side, and then you kitchener stitch the end. So that process is normal. You just do a whole tube until it's as long as you want it, and you can do the wedge toe. So what you'll need to work out then really is how long your wedge toe is. So this is from where it started, it's just about 2 inches there or thereabouts. So you know that if you wanted to do a wedge heel, which is essentially the same as a wedge toe, then that distance would be 2 inches. All right. Excuse me if you can hear the dog in the background. He's just had a delicious dinner and is now wiping his face on the rug. So we'll just leave that there. Chewie, could you wipe your face somewhere else, please? Thank you. Anyway, so wedge toe. So then you get a sock that is a good size for you, and then you'll know how long you'll need that to be before you set where you're going to cut for your Afterthought heel. All right, so here's another wedge toe that I've done, and this is a looser sock anyway, and it's been worn and blocked, etc. So it's slightly longer because this will stretch and give once it's blocked. So don't be too precise with anything if you as a first go through your Afterthought heel. So I know that here, where the yellow is, that's where the last row was where I snipped the stitch to insert the needles. Okay, so I know from there to there should be the length I need for the Afterthought heel. So you've got your toe there, so it comes all the way up. So that is where I inserted the Afterthought heel. So that's where you would put your stitch marker to know that that's the row where you'll cut, because that's where your heel will be inserted. Because remember, if you've got 2 inches here of that wedge heel, then you're going to have a wedge toe, then you're going to have 2 inches here of the wedge heel, because they're created in the same way. So therefore, with the toe, the cut for the heel, and the heel added on, that will obviously be the length of your foot. Okay, so working out where you want to put the Afterthought cut for your Afterthought heel, when you're doing a wedge heel, you can just measure against a sock that you know fits well, and then you know that that's where you need to cut. So we finished the spiral heel. So as you can see, it's like the crown of a hat. It's got those spirals around to the crown. I think I went down to 6 stitches before I put a thread through and drew that together. So in terms of using a spiral heel for any Afterthought heel socks, so you've got your wedge heel option that is a replica of your toe, or you could use the spiral heel. So now I've done that, in order to measure it to see how long it is. So the next time that I do a pair of Afterthought and where I'm going to cut for the heel to be inserted, I just need to see how long that one is, and that's probably about 1.5 inches, 1 3/4 inches, so it's slightly shorter than the wedge version. I hope that makes sense. So now you have placed your marker for where you're going to snip the stitch to insert the heel. You need to find the row of stitches either side of that marker. So choose the row above or below where your stitch marker is, and then slowly insert a needle across that line of stitches above the marker. So the row where the marker sits is the row that you'll unravel. So you're saving the stitches in the row below or the row previous to that stitch. So work your way along, and don't worry too much whether you're picking up the correct leg of the stitch. Just work your way along through the whole row. And once you've got that row on the needle, just count up the stitches, making sure that you've got half of the stitches there. Then you're going to do the same thing on the row, the other side of that chosen stitch. So slowly pick up, making sure that this is the row, the other side of that chosen stitch, because the row that the chosen stitch is on will be unravelled. I find this easier to do it on 2 straight DP ends to pick up the stitches in one line. Go all the way across and then count your stitches to make sure that you've picked up half the sock stitches in total. So once you've got your 2 needles inserted, you're going to snip the stitch that the stitch marker is threaded through. So pull that stitch slightly and then give it a snip. And once you've cut that stitch, you can slowly, with a needle, a threading needle or a DPN, you can start to pull away those stitches. Once I've started to do this, I often find that removing one of the stitches and placing those 2 sets of stitches onto another set of DPNs means that I can open out that gap and be able to pull the thread through more effectively. You don't need to unravel all the stitches. I sometimes leave the last couple of stitches on that DPN still within the stitches because it means that you don't get so much of a hole on the side of the heel, which can be a problem sometimes. So once you've picked back all the stitches, you can open out the heel then in readiness to attach your thread once more. So once you've got all your needles prepared, then you can reattach your yarn and work as you would with any other colour work or any starting of a stitch. So wrap the old yarn and the yarn from the stitches you unravelled around each other so that you're creating a nice tight connection, and you can knit through those stitches as you would, just wrapping the tail of your new yarn and the old yarn around your stitches just to secure them in place. If you find that there are stitches twisted on your needle, then you can go ahead and knit through the back of the stitch rather than the front to untwist them as you go along, which is why it doesn't really matter when you're picking them up if they are twisted. Once you get to the end of the heel, it can be quite easy sometimes to leave a gap if you're not too careful. So what I'll often do is pick up the stitch from the row below in the corner of the heel, put that on my needle, and then knit that with the first stitch on that DPN to just close the gap at the edge of the heel. And then you carry on knitting round. I tend to do 2 or 3 rounds before I'll start whatever decrease I'm using for that Afterthought heel. And we're back. So hopefully that made sense of where to place that stitch marker in order to cut and open the heel. But yeah, I don't think there's anything more to say on that really. The most important thing is to maybe work from a pair of socks that you have that are the right length, a length that you find that is good for you, and then you can literally measure, work it in sections and measure the depth of your toe, the wedge toe, and then what you're going to do for a heel. But I think if you are going to experiment with the spiral heel version, where you divide into sections and just decrease every other round like you would with a hat, then maybe just a little bit shorter than the toe of a normal sock. But yeah, have a go. Let me know how you think, how you work with it, whether you think it's useful, whether you're okay with kind of snipping that stitch and unravelling that row, because ultimately it's always scary, isn't it, cutting a stitch, but it'll be fine, it'll be absolutely fine. The only issue you might have sometimes is the gaps on the edge, and the way I kind of get around that is not to unravel all the stitches right to the very edge, to leave that thread through the last couple of stitches, and then if I do think there's going to be a little gap, as I showed in the video, I will pick up the stitch from the row below, put that on the needle, knit those 2 stitches together, and then it kind of seals that gap quite nicely, if that's a problem for you. Often if you pull it tight enough, it doesn't cause a hole in the first place. But yeah, let me know how you get on. Experiment with an Afterthought heel if you haven't done so already. Yes, what else to say? It is bank holiday weekend here in the UK, and we've had a couple of weeks of really, really nice sunshine. So I don't know about you, but I've been making the most of that and being out and about. And it's been, yeah, it kind of lifts your spirits, doesn't it, when you start to see summer looming, warmer weather, not so many coats and hats, being able to get out more, longer days. It makes such a difference. Certainly makes a difference to me. I'm sure the same for you. Yes, so in terms of life bits and bobs, job is busy, work is busy, and it's a tricky one, and it was really lovely this week. I managed to meet up with Helen from Nelli and Eve Yarns, which was really lovely. Yeah, it felt like we were a bit kind of out of school, mitching off school to meet up for a coffee. I've met her obviously at yarn shows year on year, but it was nice to kind of meet her off duty almost and have a little coffee and a natter, and that was really lovely. So she came to the campus in Carmarthen where I work, so that was quite nice to show her around some of the students' work as well. They've been busy with their end of year shows, and the set design and production students have been busy with their props and their sets and their costumes, so it was nice to be able to show her some of the work that they have done. But yeah, we were chatting about life, etc. And I think for me personally, I'm finding that I'm not sure what I want to do next. I enjoy my work, I enjoy working with my colleagues, I enjoy working with my bosses, everyone is great, but there's just something that, what's next? What do I want to do now? And interestingly, being up in mid Wales for the Wonderwool event, and that's actually where I'm from, is mid Wales originally, not Bilth where the show is held, but Creator, which is the town a little bit further up the road. That's where I was born and brought up, so we always stay in that town when we kind of visit for the show, Carol and Tracy and I. And yeah, for the first time in a long time, I really felt a yearning for home, to be back home, and weirdly I kind of bumped into a couple of members of my extended family. My family all still live up there, the extended family. You know what it's like when you're from a small community and you know everybody, you're related to everybody. So it was really nice to kind of meet up, well not meet up, but bump into a couple of members of my extended family, and had really nice chats with them. Bumped into my old primary school teacher who, you know, was like, how are you? How's Cardiff? How are the kids? So yeah, that they really kind of remember you, and that was that was a pulling of the heartstrings of home, really. So yeah, been musing with what that means. Does that mean that I want to go home? Don't know. It's a very, very big, different life to down here. Does that mean that I'd like to spend more time up there? And yes, that's probably the case. But I don't know. There's something post-menopause, maybe you can shed some light on this too, that sort of makes you look inward a little bit more. And I read this amazing book called If Women Rose Rooted, and I'll put it in the link below, by Sharon. I say read it, I listened to it on Audible. Oh my days, what a great book. If you are at my stage of life, post-menopause, busy, not really not knowing what the next steps might be, knowing that there's a lot more world out there, there's a lot more life to live. And that's why I think I said a couple of weeks ago, I'm not sure where this podcast is going to go, because I really feel like there's lots more things I want to achieve, and maybe achievement actually is the wrong word, lots more things I want to explore, lots more things I want to spend time with. And at the moment I'm finding that if I don't get something done at the weekend, and I don't mean housework, although I do mean housework, but if I don't get something done at the weekend, then I know that I'm actually going to have to wait another week to be able to have actual time, brain space, finger space, creative space to get on with it again. And that's proving to be quite a challenge at the minute. But this book, if you get an opportunity to read this book or listen to this book, it's really, really lovely. If you, like me, are kind of thinking, wanting a simpler life maybe. And I've got so much stuff, not only to linked to knitting and yarn and stash, but just stuff. And even at the moment, I look around the house and kind of think, oh my days, what is all this stuff doing everywhere? And it's accumulated, isn't it, with kids, and oh, I need this and I must have that, and if I have that, that'll make that easier. And then all of a sudden, you look around and think, oh no. I think there's an advert somewhere on the TV in the UK, and it's like this house, and it's really, really full, and I think it's for insurance or something, I don't know, but that's how I feel my house is. It's like a cartoon house that is just bulging at the seams and it's going to explode. That's how I feel. Maybe that's how my head feels. Oh my goodness. Yes, but having the time to be able to sell on and get rid of on Marketplace and Vinted and all that stuff, that again takes time to kind of curate, organise, sort out. So yeah, and not that anything is bad. I don't feel bad. I just feel curious and what's the word? Itchy? No. Unsettled? No. Don't know. Maybe you can tell me what the word is and tell me if you feel like this too. So yes, been doing a lot of musing. We did actually go up to Mid Wales to have a look at a couple of houses that are on the market, just as a kind of an investigative event. Don't know. So that's me. What else is happening? Planning for the summer. Like I say, we've got some great plans to do some travelling over the summer with my brother, so trying to make sure that we're getting that booked and sorted. Ordinarily in the camper van, don't really worry too much about not booking anywhere, but because we'll be travelling through Europe high season, I think it would be best not to have that added stress. And the other thing is that I like to kind of see lots and lots of things, but I'm aware that we need to find places, settle, and then explore from there. I'm terrible for kind of going, okay, let's move on, and not really settling and exploring a particular space. So I've been told. So we'll be doing that. We'll be settling in some spaces, in some campsites for a few more days before we kind of go off into the next bit of the journey. So that is exciting. Where are we in the university term? So that's, the university term is kind of coming to a close, although we don't kind of go into holiday seasons in the way that schools do. But a couple of weeks of performances and exhibitions, and still a couple of weeks of performances and exhibitions to come. So it's nice to see the students work and celebrate at the end of the year. Carol, my friend Carol, who was in the Wonderwool video, she has moved finally. That's been a long event. So Carol, if you're watching this, how you have time, I don't know. You better be getting back to unpacking boxes, etc. But I hope you've settled in well, and we'll be looking forward to coming to visit you, Tracy and I, soon, I hope. So yeah, that's about it really. Let me know what you're up to. Let me know if you kind of understand that wanderlust, that moment where you're starting to kind of consider what the next phase is, what is going to happen next with our lives. Because as we know, life is short and you've got to grab these things. So we'll see. Any inspiration, gladly received. Any inspirational books, like I've suggested there, if you've got any books that you think I should read around this. Any other podcasts to watch, really enjoy watching all the ordinary podcasts that I've been watching for years and years and years around the knitting podcasters. But yeah, it's funny, isn't it, how your algorithms start to change. People who are doing up cottages in the back of Beyond and taking a year off and going around in their camper van, they've started to kind of sneak into my algorithm, which I'm very much enjoying. So yeah, any inspiration gladly received. But other than that, I hope you are well. I hope you have some projects on the needle that you are working on. I'm looking over in the corner of my room because I have my colourwork vest there. And actually, Helen gave me a stern talking to about getting on with that vest when we met, from Nelli and Eve. In fact, I think it was a little bit on the verge of bullying, quite frankly. It was bullying in the workplace. Well, not the workplace, bullying in my workplace, because I was in my workplace. But yes, I haven't taken it up yet. I will, I promise. I did actually get it out of the box, realise that I would need to thread it onto another set of needles in order to try it on, because I was saying to Helen that I haven't even tried it on yet, so I don't really know how much ribbing I need to complete. That's not hard. Right. Pledge to myself, I'm going to try that on by the end of today. I'll take it off the needles and put it on a thread and and try it on by the end of the day, so then at least I will know what I'm doing with that one. There we go. Girl guide promise. Yes, so I better go on and do that. So I hope you're well, keep busy, and I will catch up with you very soon. Diolch pawb, hwyl fawr, bye.